Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. What is a companion video? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show, we take live questions, but we don't always have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in. But I want to make sure those questions get answered in a video properly, so I gather up those questions and we address them here on companion videos. So today, what day is today? It's Thursday, May the 2nd. So these are the leftover questions from this morning's John Campea Show. Of course, Thursday, May the 2nd. So let's not waste any time and get right into it. And we're going to start things off here with J Meister, who writes, Endgame made me love Hawkeye all over again. You know, some people were a little dissatisfied the way Hawkeye was used in the first one, although narratively it was very important. His role in the first one was very important. But, some people felt he was sold a little bit short. Haven't had a lot of heavy use with Hawkeye in the MCU since, and of course he wasn't even around in Infinity War. I think he had a really great role to play in this one, and I agree. It made me love the character all over again. Ewan Fitzhugh writes, I just want to say how great the show is. Thank you, Ewan. Love Rob being here. I've recently been watching his show after yours every day. Can see how hard you work. Well, thank you so much, man. It's always nice when somebody just wants to send something in to be nice. And I love having Rob around here, and I love when I get to have Greg in here. And obviously having Ashley here is great. And having you guys here is great. So thanks for the kind words, man. All right, Anthony DeRizzo writes, you guys should check out the Podcast Strikes Back channel here on YouTube. Those guys are great and always deliver awesome content such as yourselves. Well, I always appreciate when people send in good recommendations, and now everybody knows. Thanks for that, Anthony. Frab Nab writes, the worst part of Endgame, no impotence jokes? I'm not quite sure what that's a reference to, but okay, we'll go with it, Frab Nab. G. Patty writes, someone just tried to airdrop me spoilers on a bus? Like a random stranger just out of nowhere tried to spoil you for Endgame? Or was it somebody you knew? Out of all the ways you can spoil something for somebody, that's a different one. I've not heard, I got to tell you, DWG, that's not one I've heard before. So, hey, give them marks for creativity at any rate. Matsiv Jada writes, Indiana Jones 5, The Lost City of Atlantis? I don't know, that doesn't seem to fit Indiana Jones at all. I've heard other people kind of suggest something like that before, but I don't know. I'll be honest with you. This old idea that they seem to have thrown away, where he's searching for lost Nazi gold, I don't know. Color me crazy. I thought that sounded great. I know it's not like a supernatural thing like they have done in some previous Indiana Jones films, but does it always have to involve the supernatural? I don't know. The idea of Indy looking for lost Nazi gold, that sounded pretty good to me. Kick It to the King writes, Amy Pascal, for those of you who have not heard about this, we'll probably talk about it on the John Campea Show tomorrow. Amy Pascal now leaves Sony. What implications are there for Spider-Man on film and the renegotiation between Sony and Marvel? Keep Avi away from this. Hey, listen, time out for a second. Want to know what the last big movie Avi produced was? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That turned out pretty damn good, did it not? Did it not? And don't go, well, he had nothing to do with it. Well, then if he had nothing to do with that, then he had nothing to do with the other movies being bad. He has something to do with this now. He has produced some horrible films, yes. But he's done some good stuff too. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is certainly one of those things. And, so thank God for his contributions to that. I honestly don't know, and I'll tell you right now, Kick It to the King, that's the first question that crossed my mind. It's like, okay, well, what does this do with her involvement with Spider-Man? Because as a producer, she's probably on as a producer from here on out, even if she's not with Sony. So I believe we're still going to see her as a producer on the Spider-Man films going forward. I don't know that. I'm wondering it, but my starting assumption, which is baseless. I could give or take. I don't know if it's true or not, but my starting assumption is going to be that she's going to continue on as a producer on those movies. Now, remember, she and Sony did not part ways. They had a 4-year contract as a first look deal, and they were coming to the end of that 4-year deal. And she decided she got an offer for a new 4-year deal with Universal. She decided that offer was a little bit better for her, and she took it. I don't think it necessarily means there's any kind of falling out between her and Sony, but I'm with you, King. It's my biggest question is, how does this involve Spider-Man? Does she stay on as a producer? I assume she will, but maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. Groot writes, I am Groot. Dudes, I told you, please no spoilers. There are people here who haven't seen the movie Groot. Aaron W writes, can we get a moment of silence for all us poor cinema staff having to work through the thousands of people every day coming in to watch Avengers Endgame? Dude, seriously, I brought it up before, but I will say it again. When I'm in the theaters and it's particularly packed, I always think, oh God, the poor employees here. Because let's be honest, as film goers, we can be assholes. We can be. I have often seen movie theater staff take unreasonable amounts of abuse from people for over the smallest thing, and people leave their junk everywhere. We're a bunch of animals and all that kind of stuff, and not the most fun time when big popular movies are in theaters, and especially with something like Avengers Endgame. So my hat's off to all of our faithful theater workers out there, those of you who make it possible for us to have our great in-theater experiences. Thank you, and hang in there while the rush continues. All right, Dirk Walker writes, I think DC movies could learn from Doom Patrol. It's dark and gritty, yet it's really funny, and it's not afraid to be ridiculous like its source material. I'm telling you what, guys, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I had not no interest in Doom Patrol, but I had little interest in Doom Patrol. Many of you guys are the ones who talked me into watching it, and now I am in love with this show. It's got some incredibly mature subject matter, and yet handled in a really weird... Now, I don't think the DCEU should be Doom Patrol. I think part of the reason Doom Patrol works is because it's so unique like that. I don't think you now start making all your movies like that. The uniqueness fades away, whatever, but it does once again go to the point that I made earlier today. I said, whether you have lighthearted subject matter or dark subject matter, you can still make it fun. If you can have dark subject matter and have fun in it. You can have light subject matter and have fun in it. And that is a principle I think DC can and has started to incorporate more into their films. By the way, I think they've already started doing that. But I don't know that you go all the way and kind of like become a Doom Patrol, because I think that unique, quirky balance works great for one show. If you suddenly put like 3 or 4 movies out that were like that, I think it would lose its... I think it might lose its novelty, but I am loving it in Doom Patrol. Eat That Horse writes, lessons to learn. Stop treating your source material like it's an unseemly smell. Embrace it in all of its wackiness and scope without the need to dumb everything down for audiences that you don't trust. I'm going to disagree with you on that, Eat the Horse. I don't think Warner Brothers has treated the material like that. I don't think they've treated their source material like an unseemly smell. Actually, in many ways, I think they've tried to honor the source material. Now, you can try to do the right things and have it not work. You can try to do the right things and not execute. And I think in many ways you can make an argument that Warner Brothers has often tried to give honor to the source material, but it hasn't quite worked to a degree. Now, there are people like me and maybe like you that I've enjoyed all the movies, but even though I've enjoyed them, you can't ignore the fact that they have had problems. And you can't ignore the fact that a lot of people haven't liked them. And I understand why. But honestly, I don't think, you reduce it down to saying, oh, they just treat their audience like they're dumb. I never once felt like they were treating their audience like they were dumb at all. So, I mean, that's the way you see it, and I respect that. But I got to tell you, brother, I don't see it that way. I see it a little bit differently than you do. Anyway, Robert Perez writes, Ashley, what kind of movie, well, obviously Ashley's not here. What kind of movie genre would you like to play in a major role in sci-fi, psychedelic, drama, rom-com? Have a good day, everyone. Well, Robert, I'm going to go out on a limb and answer for Ashley. As an aspiring actress, I mean, she gets a bunch of work, but she hasn't been in a lot of major feature films. I would say she would take any of them. I'm going to go out on a big limb here, Robert, and guess that she would take any of them. ZMG Ruler writes, someone said Endgame ripped off Snyder's plans. Oh, that's so laughable, ZMG. Neither you or I even need to... don't even need to address that. It's not worth even addressing. So I think you and I are good on that. Robert Perez writes, and my local theater, The Long Shot, has only 5 screenings per day. How are they going to make money? Rob Ashley, I hope you have a good weekend. It's supply and demand, Robert. I mean, if more people were buying tickets to Long Shot, they would add more screenings. That's what they do. That's how Avengers Endgame made $357 million opening weekend. The demand was there. People were buying the tickets, so many that they had to add more screenings. And if they're not selling out the screenings that they have, they're not going to feel the need to open up other screenings. Now, Ann and I are going to see Long Shot tonight, and our buddy Soul. And we literally got, I kid you not, we completely lucked out. Last night, we were having dinner, me and Ann. It's like, oh, well, we want to go and we want Soul to come with us. And we look on the AMC app, and there was literally 3 seats left. And we grabbed those 3 seats. I mean, other than a couple of free seats that are in the front row, we didn't want that. But there were literally 3 seats together at the back, and we were like, grab them. So in our theater, the screenings are selling well. But again, it's not the theater's responsibility to just keep taking up their screen space to hopefully let that movie make some more money. It's up to the movie to generate interest and generate ticket sales so the theater owners are motivated to add more screenings, right? So it's kind of, that's the way it's got to work. Nathan Oswald writes, I want to see The Rock cast as Ben Grimm in the MCU. I honestly don't think he'd be a good Ben Grimm. I don't see his personality type as a good Ben Grimm. I mean, he's a big guy, so physically he's a good match, but I don't know that would be a good, I don't think that would be a good fit. When I think of the Ben Grimm character, I don't think that Dwayne The Rock Johnson would play that role that well. It's just not a good fit to me, the way I see it. But who knows? Maybe he'd be brilliant in it. Nathan follows up with Jeffrey Wright's beard is flawless. Jeffrey Wright is, not only is his beard flawless, and you are right, Nathan, he's got a flawless beard. That dude's voice, Jeffrey Wright's voice is one of the best voices in all of Hollywood. Like, when you're talking voices like James Earl Jones, and you're talking voices like Jeremy Irons, and you're talking about voices like Lawrence Fishburne, I think Jeffrey Wright's voice is right up there in those conversations. He's just got a killer voice. And I really get excited when I see him pop up in the movies I'm going to see. Let's see. Tim Bula, the Spider Monkey, writes, okay, gotta ask, John, why is the brain directly behind you, but Pinky is hidden away off in a corner? That is true, isn't it? I've got the brain. There's the brain right there. But I've got Pinky somewhere else. I used to have the two of them together. I know there was a reason why I moved some things around, and I just bought a whole bunch of new pops. But where's Pinky now? I can't remember. But anyway, I honestly don't know. I think I just kind of moved it because I was making room for something, and I didn't think about their positioning. But I should get Pinky and the brain back together. You're kind of right about that. Jesse Mendelson writes, or Mendelssohn, yeah, I think I said that right. 2 weeks ago, I decided to join a subscription service. Couldn't decide between Cinemia and A-List, but thank goodness I didn't pick Cinemia. That was close. Yeah, I would have told you to, Jesse. Look, I'm lucky in the sense that I had a good experience with Cinemia. All my experiences with Cinemia were good, and I always recommended them. But in the recent months, there were more and more nightmare stories coming about people getting their subscriptions canceled, can't get any word back from customer service. There were no help whatsoever, all these problems. And I got to the point where I said, guys, I've always had good experiences with Cinemia, but I can't recommend them anymore. Because I'm just hearing from too many of you guys that you're just having bad experiences with them. But even without that, I would have told you, if you live near an AMC, like, as long as it's not like 25 miles away from you, if you live close to an AMC, I would have told you right from the get-go, A-List is your best option. And I'm glad you went with A-List and avoided that hassle, man. Colby Harris writes, your thoughts of Spider-Man MCU future with Amy Pascal leaving Sony? Again, I kind of think she'll probably still be on as a producer. I don't think that changes. But again, I don't know that, and I'm just speculating here, but I believe she's still going to be on as a producer. And just now, the new material she comes up with, or the new properties she brings to the table, she does with Universal now instead of Sony. But I think since she's already attached as the producer of record for the Sony MCU movies, I think she stays on. Again, I could be wrong about that, but I think that's the way it works, but I don't feel a lot of conviction about that one way or the other. Brennan M. writes, What are your top 5 what-if scenarios? Just kidding. What a nightmare question, right? Anyway, seeing Endgame 3 more times this weekend with friends and family that haven't seen it yet. That'll make 7. Lord help my heart. Yeah, I don't think I can do a 3-hour movie 7 times. It would take a real special movie like Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, which is an infinitely better movie than Endgame. Sorry, guys. I know that's not the popular cool thing to say right now. I get it, and it's all subjective. And I know that's not the cool thing right now. The cool hotness right now is Endgame, and I have a great time with Endgame. I've seen it 4 times in theaters already. But Lord of the Rings: Return of the King is the better movie. Anyway. But hey, this is a what happened today? Today's thing is the best. I know we live in that kind of culture, but whatever. At least we all enjoy the film. Anyway, 7 times. Yeah, I think I've got like 1 more in me. Like I said, I've seen it 4 times already. I think I've got 1 more in me. Because tonight it's a long shot. This weekend I might squeeze in 1 more screening of Endgame this weekend. I might squeeze in 1 more viewing of it. But then I'm going to have I've got long shot I'm going to go see it tonight. Hopefully it's as good as I'm hearing that it is. And then next week is Detective Pikachu. El Chicano is one I really want to see, by the way. That's out right now. There's just too many other things coming, but I think I got 1 more in me. I think it's a 5er. I think Endgame for me is a 5er, which is, for anybody, is pretty damn good. And I hope you have a great time. But it's always great when you get to go see it with people, friends, and family. And I love seeing movies that I enjoy with people who haven't seen it yet. I get a big kick out of that. And so I hope you have a good time, Brennan. All right. Artur Mansouri writes, watch Endgame 8 times in 4 days. I loved it. Well, there you go, man. Hey, if you enjoy it, you keep going, brother. If you enjoyed it, you keep going, man. Ryan B writes, best MCU line, you people are so petty and tiny. That is a good line. That is a good line. Again, my favorite is, that's a Thor line, by the way. My favorite is still that other Thor line, he's adopted. It's just great. But you people are so petty and tiny. It is a great line. I love Thor, man. Other than Captain America, I think he's my favorite MCU character. Remember, we're not talking about comic book character, because Captain America isn't even in my top 10. But Captain America is my favorite MCU character. And I think, yeah, it's pretty strong that Thor is probably my second favorite. Yeah, I just love him in this series, man. PJ Barnes writes, from the first Thor to Endgame, Thor, a little over a decade goes by, and he changes drastically. Why can't people expect, I think you meant to say accept, Luke's changes over 3 decades? Well, PJ, it's not an apples to apples comparison. The people, by the way, and I love, my favorite thing about The Last Jedi is what they did with Luke. And partly is because what they did with Luke is so consistent with the character of Luke that we learned from the first trilogy, at any rate. But yeah, there was some evolution of him. I honestly don't think that the people who had a problem with it were just, how dare you change anything? I don't think that was it. I just don't think they liked what changes they perceived. I don't think it's the fact, I don't think people are saying, never change anything. Well, there are probably some people like that, but for the most part, I think the people who didn't like Luke's arc wasn't about that they changed something. It's that they didn't like the specific changes that they themselves perceived. And so it's just because they're okay with changes in one character, that doesn't mean you should be okay with any changes with anybody anywhere. You got to like the changes, right? It's not that they didn't want change, period, although I'm sure some didn't. But I think for the most part, it's that they didn't like the changes that they saw or that they perceived. And so that's a different thing. With the Thor evolution, everybody's liked the changes we've seen. Actually, not everybody, but a lot of people do. And with the stuff with Luke in The Last Jedi, there are people who just didn't like which changes they perceived happening. So it's not an apples to apples comparison, PJ. They're 2 different scenarios. Brendan also writes, also, thank God for A-List or I'd be broke. Yeah, no kidding. A-List was made for movies like Endgame, man. And you know, somebody asked me this the other day, and I had to stop and think. Could Endgame have gotten anywhere near what it did if it wasn't for stuff like A-List? where you and I can like go see the movie 3 times in the weekend for free because we've already paid our $20 membership. So boom, 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 boom. Like 3 screenings for me for Endgame is $70 at my local theater. Like 3 screenings is about $70. And fortunately, 2 of the screenings I went to, 2 of the screenings I saw were industry screenings, and 2 of the screenings I saw, I used my A-list, right? And I think that probably helped the box office. I mean, it's not like it only would have made $100 million if it wasn't for A-list. Nothing like that. But I'm sure it helped, man. I'm sure it helped. Ryan B. writes, I think DC is learning, what is this? I think DC is learning the right lessons, embracing the wackiness of Aquaman instead of taking him too seriously, and likely the opposite with Batman. See, the funny thing is, when you go back to Batman versus Superman, a lot of us loved Batman in that movie. I know I loved Batman in that movie. The funny thing is that even amongst the people who didn't like the movie, and there are lots of people who didn't like Batman versus Superman, but my interesting observation that I found was that a lot of people who didn't like Batman versus Superman were like, oh yeah, but Batman was really good in it. The movie sucked, but Batman was pretty. Like, I found that even the people who didn't like the movie, not all of them, obviously, but a good number of people, nonetheless, liked Batman in it. But I'm totally with you, too, on the Aquaman thing. I thought when they got Jason Momoa's Aquaman, I was very excited. I thought, man, I wouldn't have thought they would go with him, but I loved it once they announced it. And, yeah, I agree. I love what they did with him. And I love what they've done with the character through him. I thought this has been really good. All right. Jack Drees writes, where did it go? There it is. Endgame hype is real. Was at a long shot screening on Tuesday. Enjoyed it. At an AMC and the food line was crazy. Coke Freestyles barely had anything. I remember, dude, the night the first Avengers movie opened, theaters ran, like I'm at the AMC Burbank 16, all right? Like the second busiest movie theater in America. All right? The second busiest movie theater in America. So they're always going to be stocked. They ran out of straws. I kid you not. They ran out of straws. They were running out of, they were just not, because people kept showing up in waves. It wasn't like today where you can get a sense from how many advanced ticket sales. Not a lot of people used advanced ticket sales at that time. So people just kept coming and they kept adding screens and adding screens and adding showings and running 24 hours and blah, blah, blah. And they ran out of popcorn. They ran out of straws. They ran out of what. So yeah, man, I am not surprised to hear that, Jack. And I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed Long Shot because I'm going to go see that myself tonight. I'm looking forward to it. All right. Abdul Abbas writes, can you, in the future, make a video of your top 10 favorite actors, directors, and movies? Nah, I don't think so. I'm not all that big into top 10 these days. I know a lot of people do top 10 stuff. And hey, in my day, I've done a bunch of top 10 videos and things like that too. I've kind of soured on them a little bit. Now, I've done a list of my top 10 favorite movies before. That's out there right now. But it's not that I'm against them and not that I don't think anybody should make them. Not at all. It's just that I've personally started to lean away from them. So maybe someday, but honestly, I don't see any time coming anytime soon where I'm going to make another top 10 video. But who knows? Maybe inspiration will strike me next month and I'll make some top 10 list. I don't know. But I've been starting to lean a little bit away from them. The Nerdy Hatter writes, with Harley, Boomerang, and maybe Flag returning, and with the new Polka Dot Man casting David, are you liking the new Suicide Squad, how the new Suicide Squad is shaping up to be half new and half returning? Honestly, what characters they're going to have, I could care less. I really could care less. Putting this character in instead of that character won't make the movie any better or any worse. Why I'm excited, and this will surprise nobody, why I'm excited for the new Suicide Squad and how it's shaping up is James Gunn wrote the script and James Gunn is directing it. That's what's got me interested. You got James Gunn with this gaggle of misfits like a Suicide Squad. Oh, maybe he's done something like that before. Oh yeah, right, Guardians of the Galaxy. With his humor that he can bring from a Slither or a Super into something like this, I am very excited. about what they might do with Suicide Squad now. You put James, and that's it. I really don't care which characters James decides to use and which. I don't care if he has Harley Quinn in it. I don't care if he has anybody else in it. I just care that he's writing the script and directing it. And that's what's got me excited, dude. That's why I'm liking the way it's shaping up. Aaron H. writes, Emilia Clarke said on Kimmel last night that episode 5 is going to be bigger than the Battle of Winterfell. Really? Holy hell. This is going to be epic. Well, I mean, I'm sure she said that. I'm sure she said that. But I don't know if I believe her. Because there were interviews like months ago with Benioff and Weiss talking about how this is the biggest thing we've ever done, the Battle of Winterfell. But I don't know. Maybe they were just keeping it, what's coming up in episode 5, hidden a little bit. Maybe. How they go bigger, I certainly know this. I hope we can at least see the damn thing. Unlike some of the stuff in the Battle of Winterfell, because that would be great, because that thing was monstrous, absolutely monstrous. Johnny Cash writes, DC must learn to cast A-list actors, not C's and D's. Bull. No, totally wrong. Wrong. All they need to do is focus on hiring talented actors. You think Robert Downey Jr. was an A-list actor when they cast him in Iron Man? No, he was not. Nobody would hire him. His name was Mud. You had a very hard time finding anybody in Hollywood that wanted to work with him. And the folks, the heads of the studio didn't want him for Iron Man. They didn't want him. Like, he had screwed up his own career and screwed up other people's productions and all that kind of stuff with his self-inflicted problems. Nobody wanted to work with him at the time. It was Jon Favreau that convinced the powers that be to let him cast Robert Downey Jr. And now today he's an A-list actor, but he wasn't. You think Chris Evans was an A-list actor when he became Captain America? He was not. You think Chris Hemsworth was an A-list actor when they cast him to be Thor? He was not. Don Cheadle, great name when they finally brought him on. So that's a good one. But this notion that you need, besides, look, they got Ben Affleck, who's great, and he was a great Batman. They got Henry Cavill, who's a magnificent actor, and I love the Superman he gave us. It's not about getting popular A-list actors. It's just about getting talented actors. That's all that matters. Get talented actors. That's the thing. Doesn't matter if they have a big, long resume or not, as long as they're talented. And that's the big thing. A-list is irrelevant. A-list is totally irrelevant. Just get talent. At least that's my opinion on that. Austin Hernandez writes, spoiler alert, Endgame is a jazz fest at the highest level. I was literally a bag in the wind in that last 40 minutes. Oh my God, so many emotions. Hashtag exhausted. I'm telling you what. For me, it's not just the last 40 minutes. The entire last hour and everything that happened in it was just a thrilling experience. Highs, lows, like emotionally. Yay! Oh, it was like just an amazing, and I stand by it. I think the last hour of that movie is the single greatest hour in comic book movie history. I believed it. I stand by that, and you're right. By the time it's done, it's hashtag exhausted, Austin. All right. Gisberto Guzzo writes, Paul Dano is one of my favorite. Oh, I love Paul Dano. Do any of his roles stand out to you? There Will Be Blood, Prisoners. I'm so glad you brought up Love and Mercy. I was going to say Love and Mercy, etc. He's fabulous. And it's kind of weird. I'll actually say I think his best performance, some people will say Love and Mercy, and that's great because he's magnificent in it. I actually think his role in There Will Be Blood may be the best performance he's ever given. And here's the thing. It's almost a shame that Daniel Day-Lewis gave maybe the best lead actor performance of the past 2 decades in that movie. Because, understandably so, when we talk about There Will Be Blood, we talk Daniel Day-Lewis, and his role in that may be the best lead actor performance in the past 20 years. The unfortunate thing is, we're overlooking a damn potentially Oscar-worthy performance that Paul Dano gave opposite him in that. Dano was incredible in it. Just absolutely incredible. But he happened to be in a movie where a guy gave the greatest performance of the past 20 years. So we often talk Daniel Day-Lewis, but not Dano. So I love the Love and Mercy thing, Prisoners, yeah, everything he's in. But I honestly thought his best, my favorite performance of his at any rate, was in There Will Be Blood. Damien writes, Endgame to hit $2 billion Sunday, says Forbes. The hell? I know, it's crazy, right? You know, I was joking about it before because you're not going to find, like, I was as skeptical as anybody. I always knew there's a chance, but I was as skeptical as anybody about Endgame's chances of getting 2.7 billion. Like, knew it was going to break the opening weekend box office record, but Infinity War beat the opening weekend box office record, and it didn't come anywhere close to Avatar. And I remember last year, everybody saying, Infinity War is going to catch Avatar. And I said, no, it's not. Infinity War is going to catch Avatar. And it didn't come anywhere close. So I knew it was going to break the opening weekend record. But I didn't think, I mean, knew it was possible, but I didn't think it was going to catch that much. I mean, nobody did. Disney didn't. Kevin Feige didn't. Nobody did. Except for the same people who say every new movie coming out is going to catch Avatar. Those people keep saying that every single time, so that doesn't count. But I was as skeptical as anybody. But I said on the show this morning, before that news came out, I said, look, I just don't see a way that it doesn't happen now. I mean, it's just as the numbers keep rolling in, I don't see how we can look at the data that we have, because now we have data. Before it was speculation, now it's data. I don't know how we can look at the data and not think it's going to pass Avatar. Of course it's going to pass Avatar now. And I said the only thing that I could possibly see stopping it is if all of a sudden there's a massive drop-off because everybody's already gone to see it 2, 3, 4, 5, some people 7 or 8 times. And at some point that stops. Other than that, I don't see how it doesn't catch that record. Now the question, it's not even a question now about whether or not it's going to catch Avatar. Now the question becomes, can it cross 3 billion? Now hitting 2 billion by the end of Sunday is great, but that'll be, you know, after it's completed 2 weekends already and all that kind of stuff. Can it make another billion on top of that? That becomes the question mark, but you can't count that out either. It's nuts. The role this thing is on is absolutely nutty. Anyway, Connor Berry writes, hey, John, love Paul Rudd and Jeremy Renner together during the Endgame's press tour. Love to see them in a buddy movie. Doesn't even have to be the MCU. Well, I like both of these guys. I mean, I love Paul Rudd. I love Jeremy Renner. So put the two of them in a movie together. Sign me up, Connor. I'm there. I'll go see that. I particularly really love Paul Rudd. I'll see him in anything. Let's see. Subramanyam Yam writes, over under 30%, Star Wars Episode 9 reaches 2 billion worldwide, Endgame number S. I don't know what that Endgame number S is, but Star Wars Episode reaches 2 billion worldwide. I've said before, I don't think it'll hit 2 billion, but 30% is a relatively low number, so I'll take the action on 30%. In general, I don't think it'll hit 2 billion, but 30%'s low, so I'll take the over on 30%. Mike Chalabi writes, could Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek be more like the Orville? No. Quentin Tarantino would never make anything like the Orville. Nothing Tarantino's ever done. And that's not mocking the Orville. I'm just saying Quentin Tarantino's style, he's never done anything that's even remotely close to Orville. So I don't see why he would do that at all. No, I would certainly hope not either. I don't hate the Orville. I think Orville's hit and miss. I watch it. Some episodes are great, some episodes stink, but it's a hit and miss show for me right now, but it's good enough that keeps me watching. Gisberto Guzzo writes, I watched The Long Goodbye, the Elliot Gould movie. I watched The Long Goodbye. I thought you just miswrote The Long Shot. The Long Goodbye, that's a Robert Altman film. Anyway, I watched The Long Goodbye last night and absolutely loved it. Has anyone ever been as cool as Elliot Gould? Man, and what was... He's got like the classic Private Eye Hollywood, like Marlowe or something like that in the movie too. When that movie, I was born when that movie came out. So I watched that movie, I think the first time, God, maybe when I was like 20 or something like that. I was in this kick at the time. where I was watching more era movies like Cool Hand Luke and things like that. I saw The Long Goodbye. It's been a while since I've seen it, but Elliot Gould is just amazing. And that's why a lot of people who don't remember that movie, like now when you see him pop on like Ocean's movies and stuff like that, get a big kick out of it. And it's hard to think of people. Paul Newman, I just mentioned Cool Hand Luke. Paul Newman was as cool as Elliot Gould. But I mean, you're talking about an elite level of company up there with a Paul Newman and Elliot Gould, guys like that, Robert Redford. Yeah, then you're talking about elite company. I'm glad you saw that, man. Marvel D. Law writes, I'm guessing you meant Pikachu. I'm getting to see Pikachu today. Oh, very cool. Week early release in Japan. That's awesome. I'm going to see it on Monday. Don't have high expectations, but hopefully it's good. I'm telling you what, here's my expectations with Pikachu have been a roller coaster life because I had no desire to see it when they announced it. Then I saw the trailers, and I think the trailers are awesome. Then I saw a scene at CinemaCon that I thought was terrible. But then I've heard from a bunch of friends of mine who saw an earlier screening than me, and they're all saying they really like it. So my expectation of going up and down, I think I'm going in with pretty high expectations, not super high expectations, but decently high expectations. I think this is going to be good. I'm hoping that they just happen to show us the worst scene in the movie at CinemaCon, because everything else I've seen from it looks really sharp. So I hope you have a good time, Marvel. Let us know what you thought about it when you get a chance. All right. Ant Banks 1984 writes, we had two Rockets in Endgame, Rocket Raccoon and Don Cheadle. Don's name was Rocket in the movie. Was Don Cheadle in Colors? Colors. I used to love Colors. Robert Duvall, Sean Penn. Hold a second. Now I got to go look this up. I do not remember Don Cheadle in this. 1988. Directed, of course, by Dennis Hopper. Sean Penn, Robert Duvall, yep, Randy Breaux. What, Don Cheadle was Rocket? I had no recollection of that. That's some good movie trivia stuff in there, Ant Banks. Thanks for letting me know. Now I got to go back and watch Colors again. I totally forgot that. I didn't even register. Oh my God, Don Cheadle was in that. I totally forgot that. Thanks for bringing that up, Ant Banks. Matthew Grant writes, George Lucas, prime example of not being kept in check. The Star Wars prequels producer saw that George was making crap, didn't really do anything. George has great ideas, but bad directing. With the producer knowingly realizing Lucas is making crap, but won't stand up equals bad execution. Well, I mean, there's a couple things to keep in mind. I met the producer, the prime guy who worked with them. And you have to understand, this was a unique situation. Normally, the producer can, pull rank on the director sometimes. But this was a situation where George Lucas wasn't just a director. He was the owner. He was the guy paying the bills. He was the guy writing the checks. He was the guy in charge of everything. The producer worked for him. And I've talked to some people from Lucasfilm, and that nobody ever felt like you could say no to George. Everybody's job was to say, great idea, George. Great idea, George. Make George happy. And look, on a lot of sets, the goal of the crew is to make the director happy. I get that. But even in those situations, there are some people in some positions that are in a position that they can give a little bit of pushback to George or to the director in general. And whether it be the studio people or the producers or whatever, just to have some checks and balances to keep things honest. George had no one to answer to. He could do whatever he wanted, and like in the case of Rick McCallum, that's the name of the producer of the prequels, Rick McCallum, who by the way is a very good producer. He can make it happen, man. In this case though, Rick McCallum literally worked for George. George wrote his paycheck, and it was just, let George do whatever he wants to do. And you're right, when you just have unfettered power with no checks, no balances, you're heading down a wrong path. It's exactly what was happening to M. Night. M. Night wanted absolute authority. He didn't want anybody questioning his decisions. And the result was Lady in the Water, one of the worst films ever made by a talented filmmaker. So yeah, nobody felt that they were in a position to say no to George. And ultimately that led to the prequels. So there you go. Anyway, Tom Gillard writes, got to hold hands with my crush during Endgame through all the cry time. I got the hiccups now. Through all the cry time, she's a nerd too. Dude, that's what I'm always talking about, Tom. The movies are about shared experiences, and you getting to go with the girl that you're into and share that experience. That is awesome, man. That's the best. That's the best. That's a movie-going experience you will always remember. Even if this particular relationship ends badly, you'll probably still take solace in the memory of that one great night. And that's one of the great things about Movie Tom. Thanks for sharing that experience, man. I like hearing stories like that. Starfire XXX writes, Barry Pepper's ska band, banned in the UK, early 90s, played on Canadian radio. Look up Band in the UK, The Truth, and YouTube. He's singing that. You know what? I had no idea Barry Pepper sang in a band, let alone a ska band. But for whatever reason, that doesn't surprise me even in the least. You know? When you look at Barry Pepper and you hear how he sounds, him singing in a ska band sounds totally logical to me. I have no problems imagining that. Band in the UK, I'm going to have to look that up, Starfire. Thanks for sharing that, man. Paths Unwritten writes, Rob likes directors trying new things with Star Trek, but he hates Discovery. Well, again, it kind of goes back to the whole thing we were talking about earlier about people like changes in Thor, but then why don't they like changes in Luke? Because it's not about changes. It's about, do you like the specific changes being done? Rob does enjoy new things. He just doesn't like, but just because you do something new doesn't mean it's good, or doesn't mean you'll think it's good. Look, I love that Star Trek Discovery does things that are new and different for Star Trek, and I love the things they've done. I really like this show. I think it's great. I cannot wait for season 3. Rob likes people trying new things, but he doesn't like the things they did with Discovery. It's not about doing something new. It's not that he dislikes that they did something new. It's that he doesn't like the specific things they've done. And I think there's a big difference there, right? So that's why me and Rob can agree on we want Star Trek Discovery to do new things, but we disagree on what the outcome was. I have an amazingly good time watching the show. It's not my favorite show on TV, but I really, really enjoy it. And Rob really dislikes it. Okay. And, we can have fun with it. But it's not because it's new. It's the specific things they're doing that doesn't quite work for him. So it's not an apples to apples comparison, Paths. All right. Michael Solaric writes, I'm not going to lie, Indy looking for hidden Nazi goals sounds cool. I'm totally down with that, Michael. I completely agree. I'm pretty bummed they didn't go with that premise. It could have been interesting. And John Kasdan wrote it. So to me, John Kasdan wrote it. I like him as a writer very much. The notion of Indy looking for lost Nazi gold, I love the notion. It doesn't all have to be supernatural stuff. Not that I have a problem with that, but why not do something a little bit different? I'm with Michael. You and I are on the same page, brother. I was totally down for that. When I read that, I'm like, yes, please go back to that. But hey, let's see what they're able to come up with next. Tom Gillard writes, saw Long Shot and I hurt from laughing so hard. That's awesome to hear. I'm recording this in the late afternoon on Thursday, and I'm going to wrap it up when I'm done, upload it, and head out the door and go meet Ann and Sol, my buddy Sol, at the movie theater, and we're going to go watch it. And I'm so happy to hear that you liked it. I'm hearing great things. Thanks for sharing that, Tom. Ian Sepro85 writes, Amy Pascal leaving Sony, good or bad? Well, good or bad for her, good or bad for Universal, good or bad for Sony, good or bad for Spider-Man. You got to be a little bit more specific. Honestly, I think it's a zero-sum thing. Universal was quick to offer her a new 4-year deal. Actually, I don't even know how long the deal is, but to offer her a brand new first look deal. She's been with Sony for like 30 years. And she might have just been, hey, time to try something a little bit new, work with some new partners and everything like that. I don't really think it's good or bad. I think it's just a zero sum. Instead of having a first look deal with this studio, she now has a first look deal with that studio. I believe she's still going to be in with Spider-Man because she's still the producer of record on it. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's see how all the details shake out. But as far as it is good or bad, I think it's a zero-sum thing. I think it's down the middle. Lee Sandoval writes, Endgame far better my second viewing. Why is that? I don't know. I don't know why that is of any movie. Maybe it's just that we go in and we see things we didn't see before, or now we have an anticipation for certain scenes that are coming and we enjoy them. I don't know. It's a good question. But I think it's a question that applies just about any movie that we enjoy more the second time. Why do we enjoy it more? And I don't often have movies that I enjoy more the second time or less. 95% of the time, how I feel about a movie the first time I see it is pretty much the way how I always feel about that movie. But every once in a while, I'll see a movie a second time and go, oh, that wasn't as good as I thought. Or I'll go and go, man, that was even better the second time around. But I don't know why that is, to be honest with you. All right. GC writes, which are my initials, by the way, Giovanni Campea, would have loved to see Thanos. Okay, I just had to make sure that wasn't a spoiler. Would have loved to see Thanos trap them on the new planet Predator 1 approach, using the Mind Stone to torture them and manipulate them and prey on their insecurities and weaknesses. Thoughts? That doesn't sound... I'll be honest with you, that doesn't sound intriguing or interesting to me at all, to be honest with you. I mean... You just hit me with a premise. My first reaction is, that sounds kind of boring. So, not to me. Maybe there are other people watching this going, oh my God, that would have been awesome. My first impression, not so much. I just got to be honest with you. Final question of the day comes from the most benevolent king. Where did I go? I lost it? Oh, there it is. I've only seen Endgame once so far. Great movie. Hey, a lot of people are enjoying this film, man. It's not for everybody. I've had people write into this show who saying they didn't like the movie. That's fine. Not everybody liked The Godfather. Not everybody liked Bridge Over the River Kwai. It's no movies for everybody. But a lot of us are really enjoying it. Like, I thought the first two acts were okay. Mediocre. I thought it was middle of the road. Some really good highlights in the first two acts. Couple of big problems for me in the first two acts. So kind of evened out. But that last hour, oh my God, that last hour. Such a thrill. Such a thrill. And I guess I would rather a movie end strong than start strong and end weak. But anyway, that's just it for me. But yeah, man, you'll probably see it again. I've seen it 4 times. I probably got a 5th in me. All right, guys, that will do it for this installment of the companion video. We're now all caught up on all the great questions you guys sent in today. Thank you, everybody, for sending those in, not just because you gave us some fun stuff to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while we're doing it. And thank you for proving that people will support the content they enjoy. So thank you guys for that as well. Don't forget the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow morning. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea. Thanks for being here, and until next time, bye-bye.